Hi, good evening everyone. I don't have a slide that says about beware things that go up and down, but I know it's like Weight Watchers and you know my story about that and it's always going up with me, so hopefully our shares will do the same. So anyway, I'm here to tell you about EG and enterprise workforce optimisation for the back office. So who are we? We are a UK tech business. We are an established company with an established product, with a market that we created that's worth about 3 billion. We've sold over 130,000 licenses worldwide to 60 global brands. We have introduced SaaS product in 2012 that is selling very well. So we've made that transition from perpetual licensing to hosted licensing. And we've also got a mobile product that's helping us to increase our footprint in countries like Africa and Asia that want to do mobile first. And for us, definitely, our marketplace is mobile first, cloud first, rather than the traditional software model. So what do? It's called workforce optimization for the back office. I'll explain in a second what the product actually does. But as a software business, we're a little bit different to the normal software company. We have a software product that we install, but we also have an implementation methodology that enables our clients to get very rapid and guaranteed results. And we get paid when we deliver those benefits for our customers. That rapid implementation model enables us to do fixed cost and fixed timescale implementations, which is pretty much unheard of in the tech world, where most software businesses will sell you a license and then run to the hills while you spend years trying to deploy it yourself. We put it in, we make it work, we get the customer delivering benefits, we get paid, and everybody's happy. As a rule, we guarantee 20% productivity improvement using our software. That is immediately visible when the software is switched on within 2 to 3 days. You can actually see it there. And we normally leave our customers with somewhere between 20 and 40% productivity improvement actually realised. What does that actually mean? It means more work can be done by the same people, or you use less people to do the same work. So you can probably understand why customers are interested in actually buying it. So what is it that we do? What is the back office problem that we address? I mean, most software businesses, let's be honest, they go out and they invent a product and then they look for a problem to solve. We did it the other way around. We came across a problem that we kept solving with spreadsheets to start with, and then we built a product so that we didn't have to keep building those spreadsheets, and that product grew from there. What was that problem? Well, we work in businesses that everybody in this room will deal with. Customer-facing organisations who are processing transactions on our behalf. And it's mostly the service sector, financial services, telcos, utilities, local government, even the tax office. And actually, we don't necessarily want to make them more effective, do we? We want to keep them really ineffective if we can. But most of these organisations have concentrated on growth, selling a lot more, and on making the front line effective, or in their version of the world they think it's effective, where they give you a call centre to deal with, or nowadays you might be dealing with them through an app on your phone. But then what happens behind that transaction is a different story. And what you don't necessarily see as the consumer is all the running around that people actually do to try and process these transactions. And some of them are quite straightforward and simple and can be done on the phone. So when you ring in or when you email, things can happen very quickly. But a lot of the big processes, the things that really get our goats, are more complex than that. They are multiple stage. They take hours, days, weeks and months to process. They'll cut across a number of departments. They'll have outside agencies involved in them. So things like applying for a mortgage or a remortgage, making a claim on your household insurance, setting up a new pension, making a switch of which electricity supplier you're with, complaining about your mobile phone signal, all of those sorts of things, complaints particularly. All of those processes are what we would describe as complex, meaning they're more complex than straightforward one and done things, and they involve these multiple stages. Now, these organisations Basically, what they've done is gathered together all of the people into groups so that they call this the back office. And they've brought together people with all sorts of different processes. For one of our clients, 3,000 different processes in one team. They bring all these people together. They bring all of these systems together, lots of different systems. They've offshored it to India to try and reduce costs. So we've now got people in different parts of the world. We've added lots more of new technology in, including robotics now, which is the latest craze. So let's stick a few robots in here and let's add to this problem. So you can imagine that this is a complex environment. We've got many routes in. We've got very long cycle processes over multiple stages. We've got lots of different systems. And in old money, this was very easy. This was piles of paper. Pile of paper here, process it until the pile of paper's over there, done. Nowadays, you can't even see where this work is coming from. You will all experience this. You'll be sitting at your desk and you'll be hit with an email, a phone call, a text message on your phone. Your mail comes, all of these different things. How do you personally decide what's the most important thing to focus on? Often it's the interruption that's actually hitting us at the moment. Imagine 2,000 people in a factory of processing people actually trying to make those decisions themselves. Will they get it right? Most likely not. So what our software does is make the decisions for them so that all they have to focus on is doing a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. That's the methodology that we actually work with. And the 6 things that you see across this slide actually describe what the software does in some detail. We capture all of that work into our software, so we know what all of the work is. We prioritise all of that work, so we know what should be done first in order to hit good customer service and to keep that work moving through the process. We match it and work out how many people do we really need to do this work and what skills do they need. And then we allocate it to those people in fair day's work chunks so that everybody does a fair day's work for a fair day's pay and we have a level playing field based on the skills that people have. And then out of the back of it, we produce the information that actually tells us whether we've been effective or not, whether we can improve, where can we apply more technology to make things better, and so on and so forth. And literally just by putting this software in, sounds dead easy, like I could wave a wand and put it in. It's a little bit more complex. But literally by putting this in, we identify 20 to 40% productivity gap every single time. So that's what it does. So where's the fancy bit? The unique intellectual property that we developed is the core engine here, this real-time work management piece. Now, the workforce management industry came from the call centre originally. And in the call centre, it's actually about telling people how many calls they should do, how quickly they need to get off the phone so they don't speak to you for too long, just in case they give you good service. Making sure that if they go for a break, they come back quickly, and so on and so forth. That's traditionally what workforce management is, and I think it's inhuman, and it makes people feel chained to the desk. They don't feel empowered. They feel like robots, and they sit there doing this work. What there is no control of in that environment is actually the work that is actually being done. It's literally, you must answer 50 calls in an hour, don't care what those calls are, only spend 2.5 minutes, and so on and so forth. We are slightly different in that we manage the work, the complex work, through its processes. So we manage customer demand and we look after the people. And what it does by doing that is actually engages the workforce. We put the two things together and enable the workforce to see what it is that needs to be done for the customer, not a transaction. Treat these things as customers actually arriving, and how do we get them from here to the end of what the customer is asking for most effectively. So it's quite surprisingly, one of the benefits of our product is the people feel more empowered and they feel more motivated. Initially, they think actually it's going to be like Big Brother, but as soon as they realise what it's doing, they really switch into this and they really like it. The other thing that we have, and this is making a big difference to some of our partners, who I'll tell you about in a minute, is we have this end-to-end view of the work wherever it goes, whether it goes across many systems, different continents, different teams, even different companies. We don't care. We've got the end-to-end view and it's regulated processes often, so we can also evidence that we're complying with those regulations and with service standards as well. We have, in addition to that, 2 other modules, reporting and analytics, which gives real-time insight into what's going on, a bit like a dashboard in your car. And we've got the planning and forecasting side that enables us to work out how many people are needed where and when over a time horizon from now up to 5 years. And then we have the really clever bit, the connector suite here, which is a set of tools that we've developed to enable us to integrate with all of this messy stuff that's actually within our client organisations. So that could be a workflow system, it could be a document management system, it could be email, it could be robots, it could be whatever it is. We can collect data from all of them, hold it all together and go, this is the work, here's the people, how do we get these 2 things matched together and done as effectively as possible? Who do we do it for? I mentioned I would show this client list, and you know, our biggest client is this one here, massive scale, 40,000 users, down to a local company to me. Where are they? West Brom Building Society. I think it's about 60 or 70 users now. We've done it with as small as 12. We're not really fussy about the scale. The problem is still the same. The return on investment is obviously more significant for the bigger organisations. We'll come back to the client list again in a second because there's a point I would like to just mention to you. So I'm joined tonight by 2 of the board members, Mr. George Rolls, who sat at the back, who's our non-exec, so half of our non-exec board, and Michael Woolley, who's our Chief Financial Officer, so they'll be around later on. Both joined in June, July last year, along with our current chairman, Nigel Payne, of Sporting Bet and Gately fame. And Nigel says he only joins businesses where the share prices go up, so we have to work extremely hard not to let him down. But once the new board was formed, there was a review of our strategy, and everyone concludes you've got a great product, you've got a fantastic client list, it does what it says on the tin. What this business needs to do is execute and increase sales and distribution. So as investors, you should be sitting here judging us on our ability to get to the scale that will deliver increased share price and increased value in our business. That's what you should actually be looking for, and that's what we're working on now. So our revised strategy, or our new strategy, sorry, it went a bit too quickly. Our new strategy is really based on these 5 pillars here, although we're not really worrying about acquisitions at the moment because of where our share price currently is. But we're working very hard on these 4 pillars here. Number 1, get new customers. A new customer to us in the first year, their first contract, is worth to us on average about £600,000. So winning new customers is obviously a big deal. Looking after those customers so that we get that recurring revenue, that repeat revenue, sorry, is very important. And recurring revenue now is vital to us, and you will see in a second I'll show you how valuable that is. The recurring revenue is the SaaS revenue, so our customer will sign with us a minimum of 3-year term, and then it will roll forward from then once they're in and been using the software for that term. So looking after that retention is really important. And then finally, this pillar here is actually getting other people to sell our product for us. We can't be everywhere in the world, and the problem is universal. There's different languages, but it's still the same problem. So we need other partners to sell our product and help us to get to the scale that we actually aspire to. So that's what our strategy is based on. So we just put out our full year results for last year in March. And that's 7 months of the new strategy. And essentially what this is an extract from the investor deck that we presented at the time, that's essentially saying this is how well we're doing with the new strategy. We had multiple contract wins with new and existing customers, which are very pleasing, we want to see. We signed 3 new partners who were going to help us to distribute the product. GCI, who is helping us to sell into the public sector. We've got our first contract with the health service through them. And then an Italian document management business that's helping us to sell into Italy and parts of Switzerland as well. So partner revenue increased to 18% of revenue. It was 4% the year before. International business, I mentioned it's a global problem. That's increased substantially as well to 37% of our revenue, was 24% in the previous year. The recurring revenue, this is the SaaS stuff, that order book has now increased to 18.5 million to be recognised over the next 3 to 4 years, and I'll show you that in a second. We've got new customers for the mobile product, and despite quite a lot of growth in the second half, we still managed to win some awards as well. Most importantly, retaining our Best Company Award, which is recognition by our staff that they actually love working for the company, even though, I have to say, we were getting more than a fair day's work for a fair day's pay out of them for the second half. So some significant contract wins. And what that has actually done, just in the last 7 months, is significantly increase the number of sectors that we're in and the footprint that we have in those sectors. So traditionally, we started out in banking and financial services, mortgage lending, added in the outsourcers, obviously started with Capita, now got a few more, now into the public sector, more in utilities and telcos, and boy do they need us in utilities and telcos, and then obviously now into the disruptor type businesses. Essentially what this client list tells you is this is a product that will work in any market. The issue is how well we can get to all of those markets, because there's a big stretch for a business our size, and that's where the partners actually come in. But it is applicable in any sector and in any country. I mentioned this 18.5 million order book. This is backlog in modern parlance when you're talking about a SaaS business. That means what have you got contracted that you haven't yet recognised in your accounts. The pink bars here are what we've recognised. The purple is what we're taking forward into these years here. That's been growing at 31% on a compound basis. And what that does is enable us to see and have increased visibility over the next 4 years of what we start with on the 1st of February, because our financial year straddles to the 31st of Jan each year. So we start with that already contracted, and we're adding to that all the time. We also start with, but don't show on this slide, other contracts that we've brought forward as well, but we don't show those on there. And you can see what our broker forecast is for the next for this financial year, which will end on the 31st of January 2018, and we've got good visibility of being able to achieve our numbers because of this recurring revenue and the contracts that we brought forward. You can see also, pre-2014, we made the switch to SaaS in 2012 down here. Every year we started with about 1.5 million of repeat, 1 to 1.5, and every year we had to work extremely hard to get one-time revenue. And as we've made that switch and the SaaS revenue has started to build and we recover from that sort of loss of revenue in the first years when we changed from perpetual, you can see now how that's starting to have an impact on our business moving forward. So what's creating demand? Change, basically. I'll sum it up in one word: lots of change. As consumers, we want everything quickly, and we don't want to deal with organisations in the old-fashioned way. As workers, we don't want to work on old-fashioned technology anymore and green screens. We want nice modern stuff. There's a lot of regulation, and that's increasing all the time. And at the same time, we still need to contain costs and improve productivity, because generally the world is not particularly productive and doesn't make a good use of the resources that it has. Lots of automation that's going on. So as long as there's all of this change going on, that's a great market for us. Another great market for us is economic uncertainty. And when there is economic uncertainty, people want to look after their costs and be more effective, and that's where we come in and we help them. In terms of competition, we have less than 20% of our bids are competitive. We have some American players and an Australian one who are our competition. It is helpful to have competition when you're inventing a market, because these businesses help to put out the story, and for procurement people, they can compare and contrast. We've set the industry standard in terms of functionality, and we have to keep investing, and do keep investing, to stay ahead, because generally we're an innovative company that delivers what our customer base wants now and in the future, and we've got a good track record for doing that. Lastly, I just want to show you this slide here, which is about our full results from our results presentation. The thing to look at is actually the difference between H1 last year that was flat and pretty rubbish, compared with H2, which was pretty successful. On the balance, we ended up hitting our numbers for the year. But what this is set here is the momentum that's carried forward into this year. And we are sort of 45-55 split between H1 and H2. So if you add that together and do those sums, you'll work out that that adds up pretty much to the broker target. And as I mentioned, we have good visibility on that. Strong operational gearing, at least 50% of what we sell above that, certainly for the foreseeable future, should drop through to the bottom line. Good adjusted EBITDA numbers. This is a business that is now scaling and can deliver profits, and you should see that come through pretty soon. So in summary, we are increasing our sales channels. We're growing that order book that helps to underpin our numbers moving forward and gives good visibility and predictability. Our margins are improving. You'll note that we had a massive software deal announced recently. And obviously, the more software we do, the better the margin. It's something like 90-odd% margin for software, 50% for services. So the more software we sell, the better our margins are. But 70% plus is pretty sustainable for us. And we're a good cash-generative business. So we're a bit of an old-fashioned business, and we just have a product that works. We delight our customers. We do great projects. We make sure the business is profitable, and we turn it into cash so we can delight you as investors, and that's what we aim to do moving forwards. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Questions, anybody? Must be some hands going up. I'll start off then. Obviously, you've now turned the corner, you're showing a profit for your full year. What's the broker forecasting for the full year 2018?
10.2 and 10.2 of revenue, and 0.6 of adjusted PBT, about 0.5 of PBT.
So a doubling of where you are now on PBT. I think 0.3, weren't you?
Yeah.
Other questions, and don't take this the wrong way. You recently sold some shares in the company.
I did.
Why?
Well, yeah, why would you, bit of a story here. When we listed, which was 2005, believe it or not, I had 68% of the shares, which was seen as a good thing. It actually says that in the prospectus. It says, and management are retaining this percentage of shares. So this is good. Perceptions have changed from a governance perspective over time. And when we did our placing in 2015, we agreed with our principal shareholders that I would start to sell down and have a normal sort of holding for a salaried chief executive rather than a founder shareholding. Unfortunately, I'm very restricted on when I can sell. And literally, we had a window, so we did.
Post-close period, I suppose.
Yeah, and one of our principal shareholders are Living Bridge, Hargreave Hale, Herald, Unicorn, and then we've got obviously Aspect and one or two individuals. The main reason is to try and get some liquidity in the shares. Now, unfortunately, I did two transactions actually. So the first one was picked up by Hargreave Hale because they wanted to increase their holding, which I think is now around 14%. And the second one was actually to high net worth individuals because we're trying to attract that type of investor into our stock. And so the two things all came together to, in a short window where I could do something, and then before we know it, we're into a closed period again.
How do you see the potential of overseas markets?
Huge, much bigger than the UK. For example, size of client is significantly bigger in Asia compared to the UK. So the clients that you'll have seen on there, people like Legal & General, Santander, which is based in the UK, actually that's the UK operation. We're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 users is probably the maximum potential within the UK. We're working with a customer in Asia at the minute that's got 50,000 user potential. Now, obviously, we don't sell to 50,000 straight away. The bank that we closed earlier this year is a 40,000 seat customer. So you can see the size of outside of the UK is significantly bigger. You get some price pressure because you're dealing with an average salary in India that's less not as low as it used to be compared to ours in the UK, but is less. So there's some price pressure, but you forfeit that for the scale. So it's actually huge. And getting to those markets is our next step. We're already in them. Got an Asia base. We're in South Africa. We're in Manila. We're in Singapore. So you know, getting to those markets is really important. But thank you. Good question.
Any other questions, anybody? No? Elizabeth, thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.